Welcome back to another episode of the Shout at the Devils podcast. I'm Daniel Amoia. I write for the Hockey Writers and run Devils Report on Instagram. I'm here alongside Justin Brady of Devils Fanatics and Jersey Sporting News. Just picture there's a big red panic button in front of me right now because I am slamming it. In the past, I've been more optimistic. I said it's not panic button time, wait. Devils are now 6 points out of a playoff spot. The clock is ticking. Things look a lot different than they did previously. The same inconsistency continues to take precedent. There's a lot of issues with this team right now. A lot of just things that you don't want to see. Things that in the beginning of the season, when they were labeled as cup contenders, people couldn't have even imagined. There's been a lot of worst case scenarios, a lot of injuries, a lot of stuff that has continued to plague this team time and time again. And here we are, there's a possibility they won't make the playoffs at all. And it's looking more and more like that could be a reality by the day, especially with their last two losses. 0 points in 4 games against Washington and the Rangers at home. So, bottom line is that's the reality. That's what we have to face. Justin, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I can't believe we're even having this discussion right now because prior to the season, on an episode that we had, we were talking about there's no way the Devils are not going to make the playoffs. Like there's zero chance. And now it's starting to become a reality where that's a possibility. I don't want it to be a possibility, but I mean, the Devils are just not playing well at all right now. You win that game at the Stadium Series, MetLife Stadium, in front of 70,000 plus fans. Me and you were both there, and it was a great time. Tailgate was awesome. Game, definitely unforgettable experience, no doubt about it. You think that's a game that you win over a division rival, a big game standings wise, and you think that's a game that could change your season around, change the fortunes of this team, man. These last two games have been brutal, like two of the worst games the Devils have played all season long to Washington and now the Rangers. And those are two big games that you have to take at least one of them. And honestly, at this point, now we're in a point where the Devils have to take two of three games, 3 out of 4 points every 2 game slate or every 3 game slate. It's just like becoming a matter where you just have to get points, 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 points. That's what all that matters now. And the Devils have put themselves in a really bad position. Yes, they have some games in hand in the standings, but I mean, it's just every single time you think, oh yeah, no, we're getting close, we're inching toward a playoff spot, they give you reason for you to believe they're not going to make it because they're so inconsistent this season. And that's all I really could say right now. A lot of problems with this team, Daniel, and we saw a lot of those problems last night against the Rangers.
Yeah, it definitely feels like one step forward, two steps backward. That's how it's been really the entire season. And it's unfortunate. Injuries have been a large part of that, but there's still a lot, even outside of injuries, that hasn't been great. I want to start off with the power play. The power play is, I don't have the exact numbers, but I want to say it's
Four,
four.
4 for 62.
Yeah, 4 for 62 is just unfathomable for a team that was quite literally automatic on the power play in the start of the season. I'm gonna give my thoughts on it. I think almost the entirety of it is Luke Hughes. They have completely figured him out and realized that when he is pressured with the puck, he does not currently have the ability to escape that and be calm as the quarterback of the power play. And as he did in the beginning of the season, the reason he was so successful in the beginning of the season was because they knew he was a prodigy at Michigan. They knew how much he was hyped up. Opposing penalty kills needed to respect his speed and his deceptive ability, which is understandable. But the second they figured him out, it has been a nightmare. And it didn't help that Jack was off that power play for a while, and now he's back, but we're going to get into why he's not effective in a bit. Um, Bottom line is Luke Hughes has been figured out, and when you don't have a quarterback on the power play, it makes everything else way more difficult. Their zone entries, I think, have been fine for the most part. I don't love the drop back pass. I'm not saying that they've been perfect, but if you're comparing them to the rest of the league, they've, with the speed of Jack Hughes, the speed of Luke, guys like Jesper Bratt, they have still been entering the zone pretty well for a power play. That's not the reason the power play is struggling. Yes, is it frustrating at times, but the bottom line is now because they have Luke figured out, they're not able to open up these seams, open up quality opportunities. So they need to score dirty goals and they're not getting to the front of the net enough. So it's just a lot of pass, 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 pass. How many times have we heard the crowd yell, shoot, shoot, and then boo the power play? I mean, it's just like an endless cycle. Um, but that's the reality right now. They don't have a quarterback on the right now. I'm not saying Luke's not going to be a great quarterback of the power play in the future, but right now they have him figured out, and he hasn't shown that he's able to adapt. It seems like the other team's getting shorthanded chances pretty often too. Devils were 0 for 5 on the power play last night against the Rangers, and that included a 5 minute man advantage
And 4 minute
and a 4 minute one. I believe in total it was either 11 or 13 minutes of power play.
around that range. Yes.
So it's unfortunate, but that's the reality right now, and that's where the injury to Dougie Hamilton really hurts the team. Lindy Ruff said last night, basically, we're working with what we have. We have two rookies right now, and Nemitz and Hughes on the two power play units, and we're trying our best. That's the personnel we have. They're gonna learn, they're gonna get better, but right now, that's all we have, and you can't fault them for that because that's the truth. I would imagine that it would be so much different with Dougie Hamilton's ability to get pucks through. We saw that game last year against Seattle when Jack Hughes was out and Dougie just started ripping pucks from the point. He scored two power play goals just in that game. That the Devils have scored two power play goals in like the last 40 something chances, let alone in one game. So that part is just it's tough to deal with. You can't replace a guy like Dougie Hamilton right now. Like I said, I think Luke will grow. He's younger than I am. He's 20 years old. Um, he will be that elite guy, I believe, in the future. But right now, they have Luke Hughes figured out. He's not able to calmly play the puck. He bobbles it a lot. He just looks kind of scared out there on the power play. And that's not shade to Luke himself, but that's just the way he's been playing. So let's hear your thoughts, Justin, because it's been really rough.
Yeah, prior to January 5th, the Devils were 32.9% on the power play, which was first in the NHL. Ever since then, they've been 4 for 62, which is about 6.5% around that range, which is worst in the NHL. That's horrible.
I, I I just want to add real quick, the worst all-time power play percentage, I believe, was I saw on Twitter, is it 2010-11 Anaheim Ducks? It was around that time. They were 9.8%.
In a season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the
So
Devils have been converting at a what 6.5% clip since January 5th. That's almost 2 months. So
horrible.
we're talking like worst all time here. And I know it's not over a full season, but it's just the point how bad they've been.
Yeah, we've gone from the narrative of where the Devils have to rely on their power play to lose games, and now the power play is causing them to lose games. That's how it's been. And every single time I watch a Devils power play, a 2 minute power play, let's say, it feels like there's really only 1 minute of power play time because the second unit comes out there and does absolutely jack shit. They do nothing. They can't even enter the zone. The first unit can because they have Jack Hughes and Jesper Bratt. The second unit just comes out there and does nothing. They don't even get any shots on net. It feels like they're just there just to kill power play time. I don't know if you agree with me on that, Daniel, but they do nothing out there. When's the last time we've seen the second power play unit score a goal?
I mean, I agree, but to be fair, most teams' second power play units don't score very often. The thing
It's not that, not to a narrative like this bad. They do
it,
nothing out there.
that I disagree with though, because the reason you don't realize it is because other teams' first power play units are converting so much. Look at the Devils earlier in the season. No one cared about the second power play unit because they didn't even see the ice. And now here we are, and they're just struggling, and they get off the ice quicker, and they're frustrated. And then the second power play unit comes out by a rookie Simone Nemitz, who, don't get me wrong, 19-year-old, he's been a stud in his own right, but he should not be quarterbacking a power play unit currently in the NHL. Um,
Uh, they had Kyle Miller quarterbacking it prior to that, which I agreed with, but for some reason he was benched yesterday, which I will get into later on. But um, I think maybe the power play line should be shuffled. I think they did a little bit of that last night against the Rangers, which I like. That's a good thing. But I think it could be more well balanced. I think both power play units and see what you can get from there because obviously what they have right now is just simply not working. So why not change it? I don't like the zone entries from the second unit. I think they need to shoot the puck more. They have to get guys in front of that net. It's so important. It feels like, yeah, they get whenever they actually do get a shot on net, the rebound just gets cleared immediately by the opposing team. They really have to get in there, get a gritty goal every once in a while. That would be really nice. Maybe like a guy like Timo Meyer. He has not scored much as of late. Get him in front of the net there. That's why we signed him or traded him for and extended him for to get those nice gritty goals in front of the net. Even a guy like Dawson Mercer, who hasn't even gotten much power play time, I feel like, as of late. So I feel like those are your two guys. Nathan Bash, another one that you could add. Yeah, I think he was really good last season on the power play as a front net presence for the team. So I think they really need these more front net presence guys. I miss a guy when they had like Patrick Maroon. The power play was flourishing back in 2017, 2018 season because Patrick Maroon would just block the goalie's vision all the time, get the nice deflections, clean up the rebounds. Really need a guy like that, I think, as well. So obviously a lot of issues with the power play and it has to be fixed. And if it doesn't get fixed, the Devils are going to have a really hard time putting pucks in net and winning every night.
So what I'm hearing basically talking about Pat Maroon is bring back Will Butcher.
Will Butcher, yeah, not what I was saying. But I think they need a front net presence guy, and I feel like they don't have that right now. Timo Meyer should be that guy, but he's not being that guy for them right now.
In all honesty, I really don't think it matters if they don't have someone that's quarterbacking the power play well. None of it matters. The personnel they've had on the first unit aside, I would put Timo up there. But aside from that, like I think it's their most capable people scoring on the power play. And it's just been a disaster. And like I said, we're gonna get into Jack Hughes and his health and why he hasn't been as effective.
Also, I just want to add, like, we haven't seen the cross-seamed passes on the power play as of late. It feels like the opposing teams are just really shutting that down, blocking the lanes. I remember just always seeing Jack Hughes, Jesper Bratt, cross ice pass, bang, goal. Like it just we're not seeing that anymore. So something has changed. Luke Hughes could be the problem. Simone Nemec could be the problem. Missing Dougie Hamilton could be the problem. A lot of things could be the problem. And we're just out here trying to figure out what is happening right now. But one thing we can definitely agree on right now is something has to change, and the Devils power play has to get it together. They have to get it together.
Yeah, I just want to be on the record of saying that missing Dougie Hamilton is the biggest reason by far that
I agree with that. I agree with you, Dan.
j just for what he did last season. I mean, he was basically a point per game defenseman in Norris Trophy. I think he was top five, top six in Norris Trophy voting.
Mhm.
You can't replace that with a rookie. It's unfair to hold Luke Hughes to those standards in his rookie season. So, regardless, power plays out the window. Everyone's frustrated with that. What I've seen a lot on social media is hashtag fire Ruff, hashtag fire Lindy. There were some faint chants with the remaining Devils fans last night. Fire Lindy. Before anything, I want to get your thoughts on this, Justin, and then I'll go from there.
Well, I'm gonna just say this out of fact is the Devils are not firing Lindy Ruff until the end of the season, and that's
I
if the
agree.
team misses the playoffs. It's not gonna happen. Look, I'm not a big fan of Lindy Ruff by all means right now. I think a lot could be pointed at him for blame, where you could say like the inconsistency could be him to blame for. The Devils not being ready for games. What, 40 out of 56 times now this season the Devils had given up the first goal in the game. I'm not even going to get into that. We've talked about that too much on this show. A lot could be put a lot could be pointed at him for blame right now, and I get it. I get why Devils fans are aggravated. Usually the head coach, when things are going wrong, the head coach is the one that gets fired, and then you see what happens from there. But it's too late in the season to do it. I don't think it's the right thing to do it at this point in the season. But I'm getting to that point with Lindy Ruff where I'm really starting to get fed up with him. I don't like the decision that he made yesterday to take out Colin Miller, who I believe has been one of the best Devils defensemen just in general, other than John Marino, I think he's been the Devils' second best defenseman on this team over the last 2, 3 months now. It's really a shame. I don't like the decision at all. I get it. You get John Marino back. Yeah, you obviously have to put him back in the lineup, but I believe Brendan Smith or even Kevin Ball, I've not been that high on this season. I think you could have taken one of those guys out, maybe even a rookie like Luke Hughes, give him a break, a mental break to figure it out because these last two games have been really rough for him. I don't get that decision at all. I don't know if it has to do with like the magnitude of the player, like how recognized they are, because probably I have every Devils defenseman, Colin Miller is the least recognizable, like by name wise, but like us Devils fans know Colin Miller brings it every night. He's a defensive machine out there. His stick is amazing. He's able to win puck battles. I really like Colin Miller, and he has one hell of a shot on him. So I don't like that decision at all by Lindy Ruff. A lot could be blamed for Lindy Ruff for now, but it's not just him. The whole team's a mess right now. But you can't fire Lindy Ruff at this point in the season.
Yeah, I definitely agree that they're not going to. It's kind of a double-edged sword. I see both sides. I see that I think the players have a lot of respect for Lindy Ruff. We've mostly seen that they've been fairly vocal. Um, Lindy, I think last night showed two things. One, I think it was the most honest presser he's ever had. He basically said that like I'm working with what I'm working with. Like they tweaked the defensive system. It's been better. The He has two rookies who he has to count on for a bulk of the ice time, and there's not really other options right now. I don't agree with sitting Colin Miller in favor of Brendan Smith, or honestly even in favor of Jonas Siegenthaler, who had a horrible night last night and has been horrible this entire season. Um, I'm not saying I agree with every decision. I'm not saying he's been the perfect coach, but the bottom line is with similar personnel when healthy, look what the Devils did last season. Lindy Ruff was the head coach. And I didn't agree with every decision he made last season either. But look at the standings, that's all that mattered. And most teams don't agree with everything. Most fan bases don't agree with everything a head coach does. That's just the reality of hockey. Very, very few that do. But with that being said, I don't know. He's just been if he was so honest last night about the rookies, their ice time working with what he's working with, but he also showed a little frustration for the first time. Um, I don't want to say the first time. He's been frustrated other times, but he made a little comment saying how the reporters put pressure on the play, excess pressure on the players during the power play. Um,
All right. Can I interrupt
go
you?
go ahead.
Biggest bullshit I think I've ever heard in my life. A reporter's doing their job. They're gonna report what the team's not doing well. That
Yeah,
there shouldn't be any pressure on the players. I'm gonna say that. That's
yeah,
dumb.
I agree, but at the same time, I think this is a guy who's just trying to because he's not necessarily wrong. Like obviously players feel pressure from media and stuff like that.
It shouldn't.
But
They can't
but
let that get to them.
yeah, to openly say it is a completely different story and to show that it bothers the team or that it bothers you. I think at this point he's just publicly trying to do everything he can to still continue to get support from the players to I mean he knows that his seat's warming up and
Yes.
he knows where the team is right now. And with that, I don't think he cares what the media, what the fan base says about him. He wants to do what is best for the players, for the team to rally them together, whether the public or media agrees with them or not. And I commend that, I do. But with that being said, it's tough because you're going to get a lot of public pressure. The media is going to push on it, and reasonably so. Everyone's there to do a job. No one's evil here, and no one's the god. Like Lindy Ruff is there to do a job, just as the reporters are there to do a job, just as everyone in the Prudential Center is there to do a job and make a living. So
Yeah.
they're all in their own right to do what they feel is best. Um, but he kind of Ryan Novozinski for NJ.com posted an article that Lindy Ruff just seemed like he was out of answers, and reasonably so, because they tried tweaking the defensive system. I think Lindy has received way too much of the blame this season for injuries, and I know you could say, oh, they have to figure it out when players are hurt. Yes, but also no. When you're losing players to the magnitude of Jack Hughes and Nico Hischier for extended periods of times, those players are irreplaceable, and I don't think the Devils have been I know it's bad to say after last night, but I don't think the Devils have gotten blown out like super often. Like they've been competitive. A lot of goals have been one goal game, two goals with an empty net. Like they've been competing, they've been pushing. There's been a lot of fight. They lead the NHL in comeback wins. So I think that's a narrative that is simply unfair to the head coach. I think the injuries simply have killed them. And I think what this fan base needs to realize most is it's okay to say that injuries played a large role in completely derailing the season. That doesn't mean the head coach is evil. That doesn't mean the general manager should be blasted into the sun. I'm not defending them and saying they were perfect either. But the bottom line is the Devils I wrote an article last week and the Devils had lost about 180 man games to injury this season. And that was before the 2/3 mark of the season. So you extrapolate that, that would end up about 300 man games lost due to injury. 300.
Hmm.
I could guarantee it wasn't anywhere near that last season. And it's just a reality. Hockey's a tough physical sport, and sometimes other teams are going to get worn down more than others. You could see some of the best teams, even like Vegas, Cup contenders. When the Devils played Vegas, I mean, half the guys in Vegas's lineup were unrecognizable. We see guys like Bobby McMahon in Toronto becoming large stories and who were basically unheard of because teams need depth players to fill roles. And not that I don't think the depth players for the Devils have done a bad job in absences of players, but a guy like Max Willman isn't going to be the same caliber of Jack Hughes. I mean, it's just unfair to hold the team to that expectation. So I think Lindy's received way too much of the blame, and I think he kept trying to make it a point that it's not that we don't care, it's not that whatever, it's just the reality that injuries have hurt us and they've come back to bite us. Look at the games where Cal Foot was giving away the puck with about a month, 2 months ago and leading directly to goals. Guys like that shouldn't have been in the lineup in the first place. So, but when injuries happen, you gotta do what you gotta do. You have to ice a team at the end or at the beginning of the night. So it's really an unfortunate situation. I'm not trying to make excuses because again, I don't think Lindy's decision making has been perfect. I don't agree at all with benching Colin Miller last night. But if that was a difference of the game, if Brendan Smith gave away the puck and the Devils lost 4-3, that'd be one thing. I mean, they could have had Cale Makar in that spot, and I still don't think the Devils would have won. So the, it's unfortunate. It's a really tough situation. Lindy's received too much of the blame for that. Injuries are a much larger part than people realize. And with that, I want to go into the fact that Jack Hughes is not playing 100% right now. Lindy Ruff confirmed that last night. He tried to downplay it a little bit, saying like he's battling, he's doing what he can to help the team win. Jack Hughes was asked if he was healthy. He said yes, but there's a big difference between healthy enough to play and 100%. And the eye test, to me at least, confirms that Jack Hughes just is a shell of his former self right now, and he's still putting up points with that. He scored 3 goals, I think, since his return. He's put up a few assists. He's hovering around a point per game, and that's what Jack Hughes does when he battles. But we know Jack Hughes at his highest when he's clicking, when his passes are clicking, when he's basically taking over games on his own. He is capable of so much more than a point per game. And he's going to be held to that high standard because he is the superstar on this team. And lately he's looked frustrated, he's looked angry, his passes haven't been as crisp. He's not taking over the games the way he has in the past. And if a player's not 100%, that makes perfect sense. I think this is me purely speculating, but I think he was rushed back a little because the Devils knew that their only shot at making the playoffs was if Jack Hughes was in the lineup, whether he's 100% or not. And I don't disagree with that. So that's just the reality right now. Um, Lindy also did say that no player is 100% right now, but specifically to Jack, Jack is not 100%. Um, and I think we see that on the ice. Jack just looks a step slow out there. Maybe like he's playing scared a little bit. Like dodging off big hits, which is understandable if you're nursing an injury. It's been a little tough to watch. There was an article, I forget who wrote it this morning, but Jack Hughes is the superstar. He said people pay to watch me play. Well, now he has to play like one. And if he's hurt, I commend him for even stepping on the ice and trying to battle out for the team. I know people are going to complain about Jack and how he's feisty or whatever, and number one overall pick, such high expectations. The bottom line is, as fans, you never truly know what a player is going through. I mean, for all we know, Jack's injury, just like he played through in the playoffs, could require surgery. And for him to be lacing it up and who knows how much pain just to try to give the team a chance to fight back into it, yet receive all this hate on social media, etc., is unfair. That's why I believe in just kind of keeping quiet and not getting your anger get not letting your anger get the best of you and go rage tweeting at players and stuff like that. You never know what's going on behind closed doors. So I commend Jack Hughes for even being on the ice. I think he's even with his production currently, the Devils are a better team with him in than without. They're able to roll four lines more so. But it's still not the same if Jack Hughes isn't who Jack Hughes truly is. So it's a double-edged sword there, but it again, unfortunate. It's just what the Devils have to work through.
Yeah, he has not looked like the same player by all means. The Devils are 3-4-1 since he returned from injury. So I get what you were saying before about the injuries, Daniel. Like, yeah, injuries have sucked and have really hurt this team. But even when they had everybody back, I know Jack Hughes isn't 100% right now, but even when they have everybody back, they're still not putting wins together, and that's really alarming for me right now as a fan. But yeah, Jack Hughes, I feel like every single time the puck's on his stick, I get it. The puck's on your stick a lot. You're gonna turn the puck over, but it feels like he's been turning the puck over a lot extra lately. He's not able to maneuver around defenders like he's used to. He gets really manhandled whether it's in the face-off circle or whether it's in a puck battle or anything like that. He loses them every single time, it feels like. So I really don't like what I'm seeing from Jack right now. And if he's playing with an injury, look, kudos to him for playing, but I believe if a player's not 100%, unless like they think it's like totally okay to play with, but maybe that's the case here. I have no idea. But if a player's not 100%, I don't believe they should be in the lineup just for their future and their safety. And also we got to looking forward to next season as well. I know this season's far from over yet, but what about Jack's health for next season as well? So that's what I'm thinking about a little bit as well. I don't want anything really bad to ever happen to him, and then it's like, oh, we're without our best player for the first 3 months next season. Like, I just the Devils just have to be very alarmed with what they're doing right now and how they're handling their superstar forward. So just gotta be careful. Yeah, he hasn't looked like the same player. And yeah, he's putting the points up there, but everything else about his game, it just seems really off. And it sucks to see. He's not taking over games like he used to. I remember that game last season when the Devils played the Rangers and they were down 2-0 in that game. It was a January game. The Devils were on a bit of a skid, and Jack Hughes took over that game. Literally intercepted a pass for a breakaway, then got the game tying goal on the power play in the third period, and then Severson scored the overtime winner. And without Jack Hughes, the Devils don't win that game. They rallied behind Jack that game, and I feel like we haven't got a Jack Hughes game this season other than the home opener. I feel like
Yeah.
that's the only game we've gotten a Jack Hughes game. And it's
The
disappointing. It feels like I don't want to say a waste of a season, but it feels a little bit of a waste of a season for Jack Hughes right now because he's supposed to be developing even more and improving this season compared to last season, and I haven't seen it much. And I'm sure injuries have been horrible for him this year. He's dealt with two injuries on two separate times. It's tough to overcome injuries, but yeah, unfortunately, it's just he hasn't looked like the same player. And I don't know if the Devils are gonna keep on rolling him out there. If they do, hopefully he stays safe because we need him down the stretch. Even a 95%, 90% Jack Hughes is still a really important player to have on your team. But if we get to a point where he's hurting us more than we're getting a benefit from him, then think about maybe shutting him down the rest of the season, especially if we're in a point where we don't think we're going to make the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, if they get to a point where they're out of it, I could see them shutting him down, but I genuinely think Jack Hughes on one leg is still a better option than anyone else. And I'm not saying it's a leg injury, that's just a figure of speech. But I disagree with you saying that his only Jack Hughes game was a home opener. I think until he had his first injury in St. Louis, there were a lot of Jack Hughes games. I mean, he was
Well, yeah, he was on a crazy point per game pace, but I'm just talking about a game where Jack Hughes just took over, a game where he was a story of that game. He was the guy that led them. Yeah, he was on what, 20 points in his like first 6, 7 games. He was terrific. And then after those 6 games, totally took a dip. I just
I still disagree. I think it was more than 6 games. I think he was on a pretty historic pace for a while, and then that first injury in St. Louis, I don't know how many games exactly it was, but that's when he kind of got thrown off. He came back. He was around the point per game, struggling a little bit, and then that second injury against Chicago, and then since then he's just battling. You see he's battling. Again, I Lindy Ruff did say basically there's no player that's 100% right now. That's just the grind of a hockey season. But
yeah.
you can see with the eye test that Jack Hughes is really fighting it, and I wouldn't shut him down right now unless he literally cannot play or it's something that you know as a fact is going to hurt him for the foreseeable future in terms of his career path. But it seems like something that he's willing to fight through. I commend him for that. And if the Devils are out of it, I could see that changing definitely. So we'll see how they handle that. Don't want to speculate too much, but Jack Hughes is this team's superstar. I know Nico Hischier is the captain, but points wise, offense wise, Jack Hughes is kind of the guy that drives the bus. When Jack Hughes is going, the Devils are going.
Correct.
And we just haven't seen Jack Hughes going, and that's a big reason the Devils aren't going. And hey, I'm kind of happy we haven't mentioned goaltending once
Because
so far.
why we don't have to, because goaltending is not the issue over the span of these last 6 games. Nico Daw,
Exactly.
he had a 4 game stretch which he played absolutely amazing on, and then these last 2 games, yeah, it has been the best for him, but the defense has left him high and dry on multiple occasions. Bad turnovers in your own zone, bad puck play, losing puck battles in the corner, not able to clear the puck out. And yeah, we're not going to get into the defense, but we know there's still a problem with that. We saw that horrible line change yesterday on that Rangers third goal. That cannot happen. Um, it just simply can't happen. That's a good Rangers team, no doubt about it. They're on a 9 game win streak. They took advantage of that Devils team when they were on a line change, which led to a 2-1, which Luke Hughes definitely could have played better. Man, the Rangers, whew, they're looking legit right now. I wouldn't be surprised if they win the cup this year. They're looking really good right now. So I can't put the blame on the Devils that much for losing yesterday, but to that magnitude where you put up
Yeah, they
40
weren't
shots.
competitive.
And the thing is, the Devils put up 40 shots on goal yesterday, but it really didn't feel like 40 shots on goal. It was it was very deceiving stat because it was all really perimeter shots, not really many
And
high.
on the power play.
And yeah, a lot, but 12 of them came from the power play.
Yeah.
So very, very deceiving stat. And they weren't getting many high scoring chances. And when they did, they weren't able to capitalize. Rangers had 17 shots on goal. When they got their high scoring chances, they capitalized. Ken Danico said something. And I feel like the Devils have had a hard time putting the puck in the net as of late. It's been a little bit of a struggle. And Ken Danico said, I think it's really perfect. The Rangers don't need that many chances to capitalize, but the Devils, oh my, it takes them like a lot to figure it out and really get that puck in the net. So it's like the Devils have to work extra hard to be able to score. And that's how it's feel like all season long for the most part, other than maybe like the first 20 games. So it's been a really tough stretch. A lot of problems with this team, no doubt about it. But the Devils just got to figure it out. And they have a big weekend slate coming up, Daniel. Big one.
Yeah, so even before I get there, execution has been a big thing. I think we need to make clear that the Devils are, for the most part, are still driving play. They're creating opportunities. It's not like they've been completely shut down and not getting their chances. High danger chances at even strength. I want to take the power play out of it. Even strength, we're still 7-3 in favor of the Devils last night. But you
The
know what? The Devils didn't capitalize on any of them, and the Rangers did. So it doesn't matter.
They've been good even strength in my opinion. 5-on-5, they've been a really good team. Ever since maybe like December or January, they've been a good 5-on-5 team. But we haven't seen a New Jersey Devils team this season where we're getting both great 5-on-5 play and amazing power play. Imagine those two mesh together.
And
This team could
goaltending
be
as well.
obviously goaltending, but we get those two together, this team could be really dangerous and could be putting up 5, 6 goals a night. But we haven't seen that yet, and it's a really a shame that it's like we can only have one of them. It sucks.
Yeah, no, it really is unfortunate. And I think just, I mean, Lindy Ruff has said it all season. People want to blame the coach. If you want to look at their advanced stats, their expected goals for is way higher than their actual goals for at even strength because for some reason they're doing a lot of passing up opportunities when they shouldn't. Just that they second guess a lot of their opportunities, and that's something that Lindy himself said last night. And as a result, they're not able to bury pucks as frequently as they should with the chances they're creating. So, yes, it's a great sign that they're driving play. That's obviously very important. But like you said, those three things, even strength, power play, and goaltending, it seems like one of the three is the reason that kills the Devils every night. So the power play could be bad. They'll get goaltending and they'll drive play at even strength, but the power play kills them. Or maybe the power play does click, which hasn't happened often, but then they get bad goaltending.
It's
Like the,
it's it's something it's something every single night. It's
there,
like nothing could be perfect.
and that just boils down to inconsistency. A lot of it is constantly changing lines with injuries. That plays a big part of it. Um, but it's unfortunate. The Devils right now have what are they, 28-4-4, I think.
Yeah, 28, 24, and 4. Yeah.
That's what I meant. 28-24-4, which means they have lost the same number of games as they've won. Imagine telling someone that in October.
It would be really disappointing. And um before we move on, I just want to add this. I put it in an article I did recently for Jersey Sporting News. I said the Devils this season are a team that they bite themselves in the foot very often, and they're not finding ways to win games. They're finding ways to lose games. It's something new every night with this team, whether it's the power play, goaltending, goal scoring, the horrible defense, giving up the first goal in the game. It's something new every night, it feels like, and it's really frustrating that they cannot just put it all together. I know this team's not going to be perfect every single night. We can't expect that out of any hockey team. But it's these problems that have been happening since game number one this season that have not fixed themselves. And that's very alarming when we're at game 56 and yeah, game 56 now, and these problems are still occurring. Obviously, the power play is a kind of a new one, but there's a lot of problems that have occurred over the season, and it just has not gotten much better. So, I mean, they have a big weekend slate coming up, and they really need to. This is it. This Devils Rangers game really decides this season whether the Devils go totally downhill from here or they use this game as motivation and they can only go up from here and make the playoffs. It's one of those. I don't think they're gonna keep on playing mediocre hockey for the rest of the season. That's a prediction I'm making. It's either gonna get on a run here, get hot, which oh my God, I hope so. If they get hot, forget about it. This team's making the playoffs and they have a lot of momentum. I mean, well, I'm not gonna get excited because I know we're really far out from that possibility right now. But or they could just totally collapse and go downhill, which I really hope doesn't happen.
Yeah, we'll certainly see. It's gonna start with a contest against Montreal. That will be Saturday afternoon. Dawson Mercer bobblehead giveaway for anyone in attendance.
Maybe
That
if
that
maybe if he can score a goal, he's worthy of a bobblehead.
he has certainly been struggling lately. He's fighting it. Um, Bottom line is the Devils need 2 points. They already lost once at home to Montreal. If the Devils lose to Montreal at home, I mean, I'm not gonna say it's wraps. Crazier things have happened, but they made it. damn near impossible to climb back into the playoff race. They could possibly be 8 points out by that point. And then they have Tampa Bay, which will be just as important of a game because they're chasing Tampa. Tampa Bay might end up being their most realistic shot. So not only do the Devils need a win there, they need a win in regulation. That every point is so crucial, and they've already lost to Tampa Bay twice themselves. One point out of four possible points. So they need to find a way, and they'll be on a back-to-back as well. They beat Nashville on the second half of a back-to-back, so we know they're capable of doing it. Not saying it's going to be easy, but I really think for any shot at regaining some hope, the Devils need to win both games this weekend.
They do.
I think that's basically a must. I think it's going to be very hard if they don't. So
The minimal could be 3 points. That's the minimal I'll be okay with. You got to win both games though.
it
It's getting to that point this season where every game matters. Every game's a playoff game. That's how you have to treat it.
the thing is, they're losing in overtime to Montreal, that's bad in of itself. Only getting 1 point against a team like that.
I would hope it would be against Tampa.
And but then if it's against Tampa, they're falling further in the race because they're chasing Tampa.
Tough,
So
but I mean, I'm under the narrative where this team has to take every 3 out of 4 points going forward this season if they want to make the playoffs. But ideally, I want them to win both games. It really feels like if you win both games, then maybe we could be like, all right, you know what? The Devils could really build from this. But if you lose both games, the nail just might be put in the
yeah,
coffin.
honestly, and I'm guilty of this myself. Something I'm so sick of hearing is this is a game the Devils could build off of. Because how many times has that
I know
has that been
we said
said
it a
this
lot.
season?
Yeah.
And they don't. Like
It should have been the Stadium Series game. If they were gonna
it should have been 28 different games this season that they've won. But that's just not what's happened. They get you up, they come back down. I posted a meme on Devils Report about a week ago, and it was like the Devils logo in the middle, and it's like it's so over, we're so back. It's so over, we're so back.
I know.
And for anyone on YouTube, and that's just how it's been. It's been a roller coaster. It's been inconsistency, and like I said, one step forward, two steps backward, two steps forward, one step backward. Like it's never it just hasn't been consistent. Injuries, goaltending, whatever it is, there's been a plethora of issues, and this is the reality right now. So that
This
this stretch is huge.
this is the stretch, these 2 games, and then you got the 3 games in Cali. Sharks should be a win. Ducks should be a win. Kings get some revenge. Should be a win. They could win these next 5 games.
They can,
I'm not gonna
definitely.
say they are. I'm not saying that because I know how this team's been this year. They haven't had a win streak of 4 or more this season. So that's a problem right there. But they also haven't had a losing streak of 4 or more. So it just shows how inconsistent they've been this year.
They've been consistently inconsistent.
Consistently. Exactly. And these next 5 games not only determine the season, but also determine how they treat the trade deadline.
Mhm.
I don't want to talk about, oh yeah, let's trade for Jacob Markstrom. I know a deal was almost done with Calgary for him, or a guy like Noah Hannafin or Chris Tanev. Oh yeah, all these guys. UC Saros, like it makes no sense to talk about them until we know the Devils are going to be buyers at the trade deadline, and that's only if the Devils could get their shit together, win these next 2 games, and then you go into a Cali trip riding some momentum, and you take 5 out of 6 points at least, at least. So we'll see what happens, but this weekend's really going to decide how this Devils season's going to go.
I also want to add real quick before we wrap it up. I wrote an article on this last week. I know no one wants to hear about moral victories in February for a
Ooh.
team that was supposed to be cup contenders. With that being said, and I 100% agree with Lindy Ruff alluding to it last night, what is happening this season for Simone Nemitz and Luke Hughes will pay off for the Devils as they continue their contention window. I know this season's been frustrating,
I think so. Yeah.
to put two players 19 and 20 years old into these ginormous scenarios with playoff hopes on the line, stuff like that, getting 20, in some cases 20, 25 minutes of ice time a night. Yes, it's not ideal for the team right now. Yes, it's kind of playing with fire, but the lessons they will learn, the way they will adapt to the game, we see the raw talent in both of them. what that will do for the Devils in the future will turn them, I believe, into both stud defensemen who are going to potentially help carry the team through the playoffs in the future.
Oh, they're gonna be potentially if they were even were on the same pairing, they could be the best duo in the NHL come 5 years down the line. Let's say that. Like, I mean, they obviously they're both drafted. They were top four picks in the draft. Nemec was number two in 2022. Luke Hughes was number four in 2021. These guys are gonna be studs, no doubt about it. Yeah, maybe they are struggling right now defensively. We've seen some offensive outbursts from both players throughout the season at some point, but the defense is definitely a struggle for them right now. Luke Hughes, especially right now, I believe not like his ice time should be minimized, but definitely he should be more acquainted for him. I think Windy Ruff should more like what's the word for it I'm thinking of? What is it? What is it? I think accountability. That's it. I was looking for my recent post. I knew we started with it A, but I couldn't figure out. There should be more accountability because if you're gonna bench a guy like Alexander Holtz, who's really getting his development ruined, in my opinion, right now, 5 minutes of ice time in that Stadium Series game, I don't. I'm not gonna. We're not gonna get into that because we had a whole spiel about
Yeah.
that in a whole episode. But I think the accountability has to be put towards these young guys like Luke Hughes and Simone Nemec right now, and I know they're playing with fire. I know it's really hard with their defense right now. They are missing Dougie Hamilton, which is a big one. But I think these guys have to be held accountable as well.
Uh,
Right now,
d-
Holt
he,
is going to be.
see, I think you're confusing ice time with accountability. I think they can still be held accountable behind closed doors and they could still go over film and be told what's wrong while still realizing that this team is basically in the playoff race and Luke Hughes is their best option to eat up those big minutes compared to anyone else on the team. And
Yeah.
I'm not saying he's played well recently. He has 1 point in his last 10 games and he's a -9.
Yeah.
But these are the lessons that he has to go through, and we know what he's been able to do in the past, and he's just going through it right now. And he kind of has to be thrown through it because the Devils have no other like premier offensive defenseman on their team. So Luke Hughes, just like Dougie Hamilton ate up the minutes last season, he's gonna have to get used to it. That's the spot that they're in with Hamilton. So I do think he's being held accountable. I just think the team is not in a position where they can afford to lower his ice time because they have to have someone else replace it. And if they have a guy like, say, Colin Miller play 25 minutes a night, no shade to Colin Miller, or even John Marino, they're not getting that offense that they can get with Luke, and they're not going to be driving the play 5-on-5 because Luke's very fast. He can skate well. He can control offense when he's on, and
Yeah.
he hasn't been on lately. But he's gonna have to fight through it. There's rookie slumps in every sport. You look at most players in the league. There's maybe two or three who came out their rookie seasons and just tore up the league out of the entire league.
Yeah.
So it's something you have to work through. And I think if you listen to Lindy's pressers, he's been honest that when Luke's fighting it, what he's done wrong, the turnovers, the misassignments, whatever it may be. So he is holding him accountable. But he's also very honest in saying this is where the team is at right now with their injuries. So it's what they have to do.
It just feels like I get it. Forward defenseman, much different position wise, and your depth at defenseman is much more thin than it is at forward. But it just feels like if you're saying that about Luke Hughes and Simone Nemec, then Holtz should be the one that is battling through all this adversity, getting the playing time to figure out his development. Unless they're planning on trading him, which apparently was a set done deal for Markstrom with Calgary. So apparently they were going to trade Holtz, but I think if you're not going to trade him, we know the guy could score goals. And I think I really liked what I've seen from him when he gets the playing time. So I hope he gets the playing time sometime soon. If you're at a point this season where the Devils are totally out of a playoff spot, I'm putting him in that top six and see what he's made of, really. He deserves it. It's a shame that he all his mistakes that he's made. Yeah, obviously you want to put accountability towards these guys, but it just doesn't really he's kind of contradicting himself by playing these guys, Luke Hughes and Simonovic, and I get it. They have to go through the experience, but why not Alexander Holtz? So that's my
Because
that's
you answered the question yourself, though. You said the forwards and defense is a completely different scenario.
yeah, but still, why not keep on playing him? I keep put him on the third line there. He has to learn.
Yeah, no,
He's drafted in seventh
I would put
overall. He has to learn.
I would put him on the third line. I wouldn't put him on the fourth line if it were up to me. But there was a time Jesper Bratt was a healthy scratch. There was a time. I mean, it took Bratt what 5 years to really like establish himself. And I'm not saying that Holt should be a fourth liner and get 5 minutes a night. I think he should get a little more than that. But
I
I
just think
don't.
the kid's development's being totally killed right now.
It,
That's my thing.
it's not being helped. Let's put it that way. But it's also an entirely different dynamic. If say Jesper Bratt was hurt in the way that Dougie Hamilton is out for the season, I think we would see a lot more of Holtz even in the top six. So I think Holtz is still a raw talent. I'm not saying he's been treated well necessarily, but they're trying to ice what they feel is best to help the team win every night. Because Holtz isn't a driver of play; he's a sniper. And like I said, I would put him on the third line. I wouldn't put him on the fourth. I don't think that's the best opportunity for him to thrive. But it also is completely different scenarios between the defense and the offense.
Yeah, it's definitely a tough situation for Holt right now. I feel bad for the guy. It sucks. Hopefully next year, if he's on the team still, they treat him right and he's able to actually flourish as a player because I feel like he could be a 30, maybe even 40 goal scorer type of player in this league at some point.
Yeah, so we'll see how that all shakes up. Bottom line is, for the first time, we can say, well, I mean, some of you might have pushed it after game four, who knows? But I am officially pushing the panic button after game 56. So we'll see how the Devils respond. We've said this a lot. Let's see how the Devils respond to this. Most of the time, it's been pretty poorly, but they're still in it necessarily. They're not out of it per se. So, but they have to figure it out literally right now. The clock just continues to tick. There's no more room for error.
Yeah, I'm not at the panic button yet. I might be after this weekend. We'll see. We'll come out with an episode after this weekend. I feel like it's either the Devils win both those games or they lose both those games. I feel like that's what's gonna happen this weekend. I hope it's on our favor. I God, I hope so. Please
For
win.
my prediction, they beat Montreal and then get walloped by Tampa Bay. That
Don't
that
say that.
that's my prediction. If you want my honesty, but we'll see. There's a reason the games are played and they don't just give the teams the points because that's what Daniel thinks is going to happen.
Yeah,
So
the Islanders are just being gifted points out there every night. So why can the Devils?
because the Devils are a good overtime team, actually. So they don't get those. If the Devils were able to just get more games into overtime, once they're at 3-on-3, I mean, I feel like 80% of the time it's wraps.
Yeah.
So that their last Montreal game is a perfect example where
Let's
3 minutes left, they're tied, give up a goal at Cole Caulfield. Like if you could just hold them for 3 more minutes, you're in a great position to take 2 points. Instead, you got none.
let's
So
just put a petition into the league saying the NHL should change 60 minutes for all 3-on-3 and see how we'll see who the real best team in the NHL is.
there we go. I mean, I'm for it. Let's put it that way. The players really might not be 100% by the end of the season then though. Um, anyway, this was supposed to be a quicker episode, but there was just so much to talk about. I'm very grateful my class got canceled. I was supposed to leave 10 minutes ago, let alone edit all of this and whatever. But if you stuck around, I really appreciate it. We really appreciate it. The Devils have gone through it. There's been a lot of different opinions. I'm sure you're all not going to agree with everything or maybe anything we've said, who knows, but we appreciate your feedback. I hope if you're giving criticism it's at least constructive because we're trying to work with you guys and do what we can to continue to bring you content. We know we're not always our opinions aren't always going to be liked. That's just the reality of sports.
Yeah,
I'm not always gonna like your guys' opinions, but I hope you guys can at least see where we're coming from. Always open to have conversations, whether it's in Instagram DMs in the comments, etc. Um, really just looking forward to see what this team can do, for better or worse, because bottom line is they still have a young core. That it's not like this is their last year of contention. Penguins, sorry. Um, sorry, I had to. If my buddy AJ is watching, I had to throw some shade. But it's true. So the team's still in a good spot regardless of this season in terms of their future. We'll see if they could parlay this season to anything. So we'll check back with you guys. Hopefully the next episode we're doing is more of a happy one. But we'll see. It's a roller coaster. So even if they do go on a run, who knows if they'll fall right back down to earth. It's really just been a roller coaster this season. So we appreciate you listening to this episode of the Shout at the Devils podcast. Make sure you're following devils.report and Devils Fanatics on Instagram. We appreciate all your support. If you have any suggestions as well, feel free to let us know. A lot of stuff we've
In the
done
comments.
in the comments. Yep. A lot of things we've done on this podcast have been because of direct fan suggestions. So we appreciate that. We're also going to start getting into more Q&As, having you guys ask questions that we'll answer on the podcast. So just stay engaged. We appreciate it. Thank you for interacting with all our content on Instagram. And like I said, hopefully next episode is a better one. So thank you for listening and peace.
Thank you for listening to Shout at the Devils by your hosts, Justin Brady and Daniel Amoia. As always, let's go Devils, baby! Woo!